Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotra Sata. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotra Sata. His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sham Kund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki. Shri Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Isopanisad Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Thank you for attending the class. We'll try and speak something that's in line with Srila Prabhupada's teachings by your blessings and your mercy. So please pray for me. Let's read Mantra 11 of Sri Isopanishads. That is the topic for today. Vidyam kavidyam chayas tadvedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum titva vidyar mritam ashnute. Okay, I'm not so familiar with this meter, so I'll just try and say it and you can try and repeat responsibly. Vidyam kavidyam chayas. Vidyam kavidyam chayas tadvedo bhayam saha Advedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva. Oh, you guys don't have sheets. Vidyamritam ashnute. Sorry, I just realized you guys don't have sheets. We should make sheets for these classes. Okay, let's just do a word for word. Vidyam, knowledge in fact. Cha, and. Avidyam, nescience. Cha, and. Ya, a person who. Tat, that. Vedha, knows. Ubayam, both. Saha, simultaneously. Avidyaya, by culture of nescience. Mrityum, repeated. Death. Tirtva, transcending. Vidyaya, by culture of knowledge. Amritam, deathlessness. Ashnute, enjoys. Translation. One who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full bliss, the full blessings of immortality. We could repeat. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Since the creation of the material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life, but the laws of nature are so cruel that no one has been able to avoid the hand of death. No one wants to die, nor does anyone want to become old or diseased. The law of nature, however, does not allow anyone immunity from old age, disease, or death. Nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. Material science can discover the nuclear bomb to accelerate the process of death, but it cannot discover anything that can protect man from the cruel hands of old age, disease, and death. From the Puranas, we learn of the activities of Hiranyakashipu, who was very much advanced materially, or a king who was very much advanced materially. Wanting to conquer cruel death by his material acquisitions and strength of his nescience, he underwent a type of meditation so severe that the inhabitants of all the planetary systems became so disturbed by his mystic powers. He forced the creator of the universe, the demigod Brahma, to come down to him. He then asked Brahma for the benediction of becoming Amara, by which one does not die. Brahma said that he could not award the benediction because even he, the material creator who rules all the planets, is not Amara. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma lives a long time, but that does not mean he is immortal. Hiranya means gold. Kashipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman, Hiranyakashipu, was interested in these two things, money and women, and he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked from Brahma many benedictions in hopes of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within the 8,400,000 species. He also asked not to die on land, in the air, or water, or by any weapon. In this way, Hiranyakashipu foolishly thought that these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Narasimha, the Lord's half-lion, half-man incarnation. And no weapon was used to kill him, for he was killed by the Lord's nails. Nor was he killed on the land, in the air, or in the water, for he was killed on the lap of that wonderful living being, Narasimha, who was beyond his conception. The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful materialist, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? Sri Isopanisad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. The process by which one goes back to Godhead is a different branch of knowledge, and it has to be learned from the revealed scriptures, such as the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. To become happy in this life and attain the permanent blissful life after leaving this material body, one must study the sacred literature and obtain transcendental knowledge. The conditioned living being has forgotten his eternal relationship with God and has mistakenly accepted the temporary place of his birth as all in all. The Lord has kindly delivered the above-mentioned scriptures in India and other scriptures in other countries to remind the forgetful human being that his home is not here in this material world. The living being is a spiritual entity, and he can be happy only by returning to his spiritual home. From his kingdom, the personality of Godhead sends his bona fide servants to propagate the message by which one can return to Godhead. And sometimes the Lord himself comes to do this work. Since all living beings are his beloved sons, his parts and parcels, God is more sorry than we ourselves to see the suffering we are constantly undergoing in this material condition. The miseries of this material world serve to indirectly remind us of our incompatibility with dead matter. Intelligent living entities generally take note of these reminders and engage themselves in the culture of Vidya or transcendental knowledge. Human life is the best opportunity for culture of spiritual knowledge. And a human being who does not take advantage of this opportunity is called Naradhama, the lowest of human beings. The path of avidya, or advancement of material knowledge for sense gratification, is the path of repeated birth and death. As he exists spiritually, the living entity has no birth or death. Birth and death apply to the outward covering of the spirit soul, the body. Death is compared to taking off, and birth is putting on of outward garments. Foolish human beings who are grossly absorbed in the culture of avidya, nescience, do not mind this cruel process. Enamored with the beauty of the illusory energy, they undergo the same miseries repeatedly and do not learn any lessons from the laws of nature. Therefore, the culture of vidya, or transcendental knowledge, is essential for the human being. Sense enjoyment in the diseased material condition must be restricted as far as possible. Unrestricted sense enjoyment in this bodily condition is the path of ignorance and death. The living entities are not without spiritual senses. Every living being in his original spiritual form has all the senses which are now materially manifested. Being covered by the material body and mind, the activities of the material senses are perverted reflections of the activities of the original spiritual senses. In his diseased condition, the spirit soul engages in material activities under the material covering. Real sense enjoyment is possible only when the disease of materialism is removed. In our pure spiritual form, free from all material contamination, real enjoyment of the senses is possible. A patient must regain his health before he can truly enjoy his sense pleasures again. Thus, the aim of human life should not be to enjoy perverted sense enjoyment, but to cure the material disease. Aggravation of the material disease is no sign of knowledge, but is a sign of avidya, ignorance. For good health, a person should not increase his fever from 105 degrees to 107 degrees, but should reduce his temperature to the normal 98.6 degrees, and that's in Fahrenheit. That's about 40 degrees Celsius, if you're saying 105 to 107, and 98.6, that's about the normal 37 degrees. That should be the aim of human life. The modern trend of material civilization is to increase the temperature of feverish material condition, which has reached the point of 107 degrees in the form of atomic energy. Meanwhile, the foolish politicians are crying that any moment the world may go to hell. That is a result of the advancement of material knowledge and the neglect of the most important part of life, the culture of spiritual knowledge. Sri Isopanisad herein warns that we must not follow this dangerous path leading to death. On the contrary, we must develop the culture of spiritual knowledge so that we may become completely free from the cruel hands of death. That does not mean that all the activities for maintenance of the body should be stopped. There is no question of stopping activities, just as there is no question of wiping out one's temperature altogether. When trying to recover from a disease, to make the best use of a bad bargain is the appropriate expression. The culture of spiritual knowledge necessitates the help of body and mind. Therefore, maintenance of body and mind is required if we are to reach our goal. The normal temperature should be maintained at 98.6 degrees. And the great sages and saints of India have attempted to do this by a balanced program of spiritual and material knowledge. They never allow the misuse of material intelligence for diseased sense gratification. Human activities, diseased by the tendency towards sense gratification, have been regulated in the Vedas under the principle of salvation. The system employs religion, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. But at the present moment, people have no interest in religion or salvation. They only have one aim in life, sense gratification. And in order to achieve this end, they make plans for economic development. Misguided men think that religion should be maintained because it contributes to economic development, which is required for sense gratification. Thus, in order to guarantee further sense gratification after death in heaven, there is some system of religious observance. But this is not the purpose of religion. The path of religion is actually meant for self-realization, and economic development is required just to maintain the body in a sound, healthy condition. A man should lead a healthy life with a sound mind, just to realize vidya, true knowledge, which is the aim of human life. This life is not meant for working like an ass, or for culturing avidya for sense gratification. The path of vidya is most perfectly presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, which directs a human being to utilize his life to inquire into the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized step by step as Brahman, Paramatma, and finally Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. The absolute truth is realized by the broad-minded man who has attained knowledge and detachment by following the 18 principles of the Bhagavad Gita described in the purport of Mantra 10. The central purpose of these 18 principles is attainment of transcendental devotional service to the personality of Godhead. Therefore, all classes of men are encouraged to learn the art of devotional service to the Lord. The guaranteed path to the aim of Vidya is described by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which we have presented in English as the Nectar of Devotion. The culture of Vidya is summarized in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.14 in the following words: Tasmad, let me just see this meter. Tasmadikena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Pati Shrotavya Kirtivyascha Deya Pujascha Nityadha. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Unless religion, economic development, and sense gratification aim towards the attainment of devotional service to the Lord, there are simply different forms of nescience, as Sri Isopanisad indicates in the following mantras. Om Magyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Shadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Eshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhi Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasketya Rishatarine. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Okay, that was quite a lengthy purport. I don't know if we could follow all of that. These Isopanisad purports are really extensive. You can imagine Srila Prabhupada, he mentions how in this writing, the writing of the purports and the verses, these are his ecstasies. So, you'll hear from many disciples, anyone who was serving Srila Prabhupada, no matter where they were in the world. Srila Prabhupada was traveling all over the world, He was preaching all over at the ripe age of 70, for about 10 years after that. How old was Srila Prabhupada when he left the planet? Does anyone know? 77. So, for 7 years of his life, he was just traveling around the world and preaching. But still, he would maintain that every day he would sit and write for a few hours in the evening. He would go to bed and rise early in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock, and he would start writing his Bhaktivedanta purports. And this is what we have here today. So you can imagine, Srila Prabhupada writing these purports, these long purports throughout the night. And this was his ecstasy, and he's sharing that with us. So you can relate it to, sometimes you spend some time with one of your older relatives, grandfather maybe, in the evening after a family function, and they just speak to you, They just talk to you about their experiences, what happened in their life, when they were young, like this. So Srila Prabhupada is giving us this opportunity when we can dive into these purports. We can sit with Srila Prabhupada late at night and just listen to him, talk about Krishna. So it's a very wonderful opportunity. And this purport especially, this is a very nice purport. Prabhupada, he often quotes the pastimes of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj. And actually, he mentions the tiny Hiranyakashipus of this age, which I found very interesting. Nowadays we have these people. Many people say, this person's a demon, Putin's a demon, Hitler's a demon. All of these, people, they're demons. But Hiranyakashipu, he was the best of the demons, as Prahlad Maharaj would say. He was the most advanced of the materialist. Hiranyakashipu, he wasn't just one of these, angry people, these, the common demoniac theme is like this guy who gets really angry very quickly. He does, far out things. But Hiranyakashipu was a very organized demon. He was a Brahmin, actually. And Hiranyakashipu, he had this desire to become immortal in order to enjoy sex life, in order to enjoy women and wealth, money. So Hiranyakashipu, he didn't do it in the ordinary way that we see, most demons are doing it. Hiranyakashipu went into meditation. Nowadays, even the philanthropists, they don't go into meditation. They work very hard in a company to try and earn money. But here we have a demon who goes into a deep meditation in order to attain sense gratification. So this is a very elevated form of gaining material acquisitions. Hiranyakashipu, Shri Shri Radharanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Guru Parampara ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah, so Hiranyakashipu, he was undergoing this meditation in order to gain the object of his desire. It's understood in the Vedic scriptures, in the Karmakandya section. There are certain practices that one can take up in order to gain certain benediction, to invoke the presence of demigods, to invoke pious karma. And we see there's some remnants of it in India. If you go there, you'll see, some tapasis, they'll stand with their one arm up for many years, and their nails will grow into their hand because they keep their hand like this, and actually the blood stops, flowing as smoothly. So their hands become actually, just stuck in that position, like, a statue. It's just stuck there, and the nails will grow into the hand, and they don't even feel it. So this is one of the activities they do. Some people, they walk on nails, or they walk on fire, or they learn the practice of breath control. They go underwater for long periods of time, and in this way they gain some kind of mystic abilities. But Hiranyakashipu was in a league of his own. He took up a pose where he would stand on his tippy toes, right? He would stand on his tippy toes in a yogic posture, and he would keep his arms up. And he did this for thousands of years, just staying completely still in this position for so long. And he did it with such focus of mind that actually an anthill started forming around him. Anthills, there's one forming over here. If you walk around the moat, you'll see that there's some ants that are trying to build a little anthill. They're bringing pieces of sand. And it takes ages for them to build up a hill like this. But Hiranyakashipu, he was standing so still and for so long in this position that actually the ants could build this anthill around his body. And it's explained that the ants were chewing his flesh. They ate away all of his flesh. They ate away all of his fat, his blood, his muscle. Everything was just going away. It's explained that only the living force, only the soul, the spirit soul that is within each of us, only that soul was keeping the body or keeping him in that space of time. And but otherwise, everything was gone. The hill was all the way over him. There was bamboo rods growing out of this hill, and this was the situation. And this tapasya, it was causing so much disturbance in the universe, because as we understand, by undergoing tapasya, one gets mystic abilities, one gets pious credit, and the karmic affairs in the universe actually can go out of balance. So the affairs within the universe, they were going out of whack, and the earth was trembling. It's explained that above his head there was a bright light forming, very bright light that was more than 1,000 suns. And everyone was becoming so bewildered. The demigods could see this from the highest planet, Brahmaloka, to the lowest planet. They could all see this bright light. Everything was shaking in the universe. And eventually, this light turned into a bright fire, a blazing fire, extremely hot. And he's underneath here, but he's unaffected because he's a very strict tapasi. And again, he's doing all of this for sense gratification. And it's explained that this fire is burning so brightly, so hot, that even the demigods can feel this fire from thousands of miles away. They can feel this fire. And this is Hiranyakashipu. This is a next level demon. And what was the result of this? The demigods, they became so disturbed by all of these affairs that they called the creator Brahma. And Brahma came down to give him a boon. So Brahma, he came and he looked, and it's explained that he smiled actually at this austerity, because it was magnificent, To actually undergo such an austerity, it takes somebody who's very empowered. And we understand also that Hiranyakashipu is actually Jaya or Vijay. Does anyone know which one? He's either Jaya or Vijay, the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. So in one sense, he's very empowered. He had some spiritual potency as well, but it was misdirected. And so this Hiranyakashipu, he's asking Lord Brahma, who is very impressed by this austerity, to give him this benediction of Amara. But it's understood that Lord Brahma cannot even give this benediction, because he's not Amara. At the end of this universe, Krishna destroys everything, goes back into him. Krishna is Kala, Krishna is time. And as time, Krishna says, I'm coming to devour all the worlds. And Brahma, he also resides within the world. Even though he's a very highly elevated being, he's absorbed into the body of Lord Krishna. And so Lord Brahma, he's not even Amara. So how can he give Amara? How can he give Amara to somebody if he is not even? So Hiranyakashipu then kind of thought of something else. Prabhupada says something interesting. This cunning gentleman, I think that's what what is it? This cunning gentleman, Prabhupada calls him. He thought of a way, cunning people like the fox, he always thinks of something, some scheme to do. So Hiranyakashipu is thinking of a way to get this immortality. So he says all kinds of different things. I will not be killed on the land, the water, or the air. So where can you be killed? If you're not in the land, you're not in the air, you're not in the water. You have to be in one of these three places. But the Lord, he overcame that. How did Lord Nrsingadev overcome this obstacle of put him on the lap? So he wasn't in the air, he wasn't on the floor, on the ground, he wasn't on the water, he was on the lap of the Lord. And similarly, he asked for many other boons. He said, I don't want to be killed at night or during the day. So the Lord killed him between the Sandhi. Was it the evening? Twilight. So during the twilight, the Lord killed him. So in this way, he was saying so many things. And the Lord, the Lord is the most cunning. It's explained that Krishna is the cheater of all cheaters. So the cheaters nowadays, eventually their schemes, they run out and the Lord will eventually cheat them. So like this Hiranyakashipu, he tried so many schemes to gain this immortality, but still everything was thwarted. Nothing actually was achieved. And then we get Srila Prabhupada, who's given us this simple process, Bhakti Yoga, offer prasadam, offering fruit, leaf, patram, pushpam, palam, toyam, ome bhaktya, prayachite, taraham bhaktya upritam, ashnami prayatatmana. Offering just a leaf, flower, fruit, water to Krishna. This becomes prasadam. You take prasadam, chant japa 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles. And then what does Prabhupada say? Amara, deathlessness. We gain immortal life, back to Godhead. So simple, our process. We don't have to become very extreme tapasis. We don't have to go through so many austerities. We just simply follow what Srila Prabhupada gave us, the simple process. And in this way, we attain immortal life. And so this is what vidya is, knowledge. Whereas avidya causes us so much trouble. Avidya and speculation, they're synonymous. When one is in ignorance, then one speculates. So in the material world, people are, speculating so many ways to try and become happy. But when you're in vidya, when you're in knowledge, there's no speculation needed. You have the process and you do it. I remember, I don't know if I should tell you this. It's my own Hiranyakashipu story. I was a tiny Hiranyakashipu. I remember in grade 9 in biology, we started learning about stem cells. I don't know if you guys are familiar with stem cell research. And basically stem cells, they are, there are these cells within your body. They're somewhere within the bone marrow, I think. And actually these cells can create every other cell in your body, the stem cell, like a stem. Everything else stems from these cells. So what scientists have discovered now is that they can, clone different parts of your body by taking your stem cells and then, bring it into a condition where it can grow. So they have this sort of technology, whether it's, so airtight or, foolproof, we don't know. Prabhupada said we can't really trust the scientists so much, but this is what they say at least. So this is what they were teaching us. And they actually explained that they cloned one sheep. They didn't create life, but they took the stem cells from one sheep, one embryo, and then they took this and they put it into like an incubation tube, and they created the embryo, and that they took that embryo and put it into the mother. So this actually, when you think about it, the fact that they said they cloned it, it doesn't really make sense, because actually they just they took something. They took the stem cells. They didn't make their own stem cells. They didn't make their own things. So it's what they call baiting in news. They tell you like a story to try and get you to become interested. But actually, they didn't really clone anything. I just wanted to make that clear. But they did have this process of creating like an identical twin, in essence, of this this one sheep. And so we were learning about this, and I was thinking, you know what? What if I take my stem cells and I make a clone of myself, and then I'll put him in an incubation tube. They have these places, these cryogenic freezing things. And I thought, I'll keep him in there. I'll keep him in some habitat, and I'll let him grow. And then when I die, or when my body is dying, I'll take my brain and I'll put it in. Because at that time I was thinking consciousness is in the brain. And I thought, okay, I'll put my brain into this clone of myself. And in this way I'll live forever. And I was so excited about this idea. I was telling all my teachers, I'm going to live forever. They were all just laughing at me, and I couldn't understand. I thought, this is so foolproof. So we can see, speculation. From, a little bit of reading, from a little bit of knowledge within this world, we speculate. And we come up with all sorts of things, how we can become happy in this world, how we can, get money, how we can get that new car, how I'm gonna, make some nice chapatis today, and I'm gonna eat. We have all these schemes about how I'm gonna do all of these different things for my sense gratification. But actually, everything is thwarted at the end. Why? Because sense gratification in this world doesn't fulfill us. So even if you attain these things, still you're not fulfilled. Still you need something more. But this process of bhakti that Srila Prabhupada has given us, so simple, so simple, it's so sublime, and we can attain eternal life. So vidya is when you have a process given by higher authorities. Avidya is when you are in ignorance and you speculate. And this is what's being mentioned in the verse. Prabhupada, the verse is actually, let's just go back to the translation. One who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So something interesting comes up in the verse as well. Prabhupada is saying, the Isopanisad is saying that one must learn the process of nescience. One must learn the process of avidya. So what does this mean? Do we learn how to become Hiranyakashipu? No, this means we should understand what is vidya and what is avidya, so that we can discriminate. Because within our devotional practice, many times we do avidya without knowing, because we're in ignorance. So Prabhupada is saying, and many times within his lectures you hear Prabhupada, he states very clearly what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with things, This is like this, sense politicians, he calls out so many people, he calls out so many instances of avidya. And why is he doing this? So that we can understand what we're facing. We're facing avidya, and he is then explaining what is vidya, what we can turn towards. So where we come from is avidya. What's the line? Prema bhakti yaha hoite, avijja vinasayate. Prema bhakti yaha hoite, avijja vinasayate. So the spiritual master is delivering us from avidya, and he's taking us to vidya, to prema bhakti. And this is the process. So there's two things. There's the negative and there's the positive. And what is this called? Pratikul and anukul. We have positive and negative activities within devotional service. Some examples of negative activities. Prajalpa, this is one example. Talking unnecessarily. Can anyone else? I'm trying to think of some more examples of pratikul, of negative activities in devotional service. Anyone can think of anything? Criticism. Okay. Anyone think of any anukul, favorable qualities of devotional service? Oh, that's pratikul, not following the regulative principles. Anukul, giving gifts to devotees, accepting gifts. So we have in our spiritual life, we have anukul and pratikul, positive and negative activities. So it's very important. This is what's being pointed out in this mantra and in the purport as well. Prabhupada, he points out Hiranyakashipu, he points out, avidya, and then he's pointing out vidya. He's pointing out the scriptures. This is what happens, this is what is mentioned in the third paragraph, I think. Yeah, third paragraph. Prabhupada then says, the process of vidya is where? Within the scriptures. So the scriptures, and he says from the Vedas and from other scriptures in other parts of the world, he says. So he's even mentioning the Bible, the Quran, because actually, in one sense, these are actually bona fide scriptures. Why? Because they're saying, turn from vidya or avidya, turn from nescience, and turn towards God. So this is where faith comes in. This is the only way by which we can attain vidya, through either the person Bhagavat or the scripture Bhagavat. This is through the scriptures. So we come from nescience, we come from ignorance, and that's why Krishna has sent scriptures. And as it said later on, Krishna either comes himself, as maybe in the form of Lord Chaitanya, or sends his representative, Srila Prabhupada, to take us from this avidya. Next, 1 second. And then Prabhupada is mentioning unrestricted sense enjoyment. So even within our practice, we need to watch this. Sometimes we may get into a sort of mood of, expressing our desire. Because devotional service, there's such a big community, such a big society of people who are all, following this path of bhakti, all following the principles, or trying to, follow what Prabhupada has given us. It becomes very daunting to think of, falling away from the path. So sometimes we get into a mood of restricting ourselves artificially. Sometimes we have desires. Sometimes we have these feelings that I need to fulfill something. Sometimes we have, these ghosts of material contamination within us. And sometimes these things, they come out in, ways that are sort of sneaky, ways that we can sort of hide from everyone else. We go and steal some extra Mahaprasad and keep it in our rooms so that we can, have some extra sense enjoyment, or, that's the only one I can. Anyone else think of any secret? Okay, I won't expose you. That's my own secret habit. Stealing Maha sweets. But we have these tendencies to express ourselves in unhealthy ways because we're restricting ourselves. We're restricting ourselves artificially. But Prabhupada explains here that actually unrestricted sense enjoyment, it is there. There is unrestricted sense enjoyment in the sense of spiritual sense enjoyment. So if we don't enjoy our senses materially, then we're going to enjoy them spiritually. And if we don't, vice versa, enjoy our senses spiritually, then naturally, somehow it's going to come out. You may repress and hold it down as much as possible, but it's explained in Bhagavad Gita that you can only give up the desire for sense gratification by gaining a higher taste. Not by pushing the coil down, the spring down, because eventually it's going to go up. And Prabhupada explains this nicely with the example of temperature. When somebody is diseased, they have a high temperature, when they have some fever or something. And it's not that you can altogether, because what happens if you altogether bring the temperature down to 0? You die. So you can't bring the temperature all the way down to 0, otherwise you'll die. But also, you can't just allow the temperature to go up. Prabhupada says you shouldn't go from 105 to 107. And this is what happens with sense enjoyment. Because why? Sense enjoyment is like a fire. It just gets more. The more you feed it. One time somebody asked Radhanath Swami in a class, because somewhere in the Vedas they read that there's a process of self-realization by which you just enjoy. You try and take as much sense enjoyment in as possible, and in this way, eventually you become sick of it. Eventually you become sick of sense enjoyment. When you eat so much that you just can't eat anymore, you feel like, you can feel your stomach burning, the acid is raising, it feels very uncomfortable and you just can't enjoy anymore. So someone was saying, this is a process that we can take to. We take so much sense gratification, like Hiranyakashipu. I mean, he had so much sense gratification. He had the demigods serving as maidservants in his house. He changed all the rules of the universe. He had everything. So somebody asked Radhanath Swami like this, can we do this process and then eventually come to self-realization? And it's explained that, it's like a fire. And these activities of sense gratification, it's like ghee. And we're doing fire sacrifice, we're throwing ghee and then the fire becomes big. So you have to have a really big amount of ghee to be able to put out a fire. Otherwise, if you put ghee in, it's going to just get worse. So sense enjoyment is going to burn and burn and burn. And it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. The temperature is going to become higher and higher and higher. Unless you can bring it down to normal, unless you can restrict for some time, like Prabhupada is saying. In order to enjoy the healthy condition of life, first you have to become healthy. And so first you have to bring the temperature down. So in the beginning we do have to express some restriction. We do have to control ourselves. We do have to vajo vegam, manasikroda vegam. We have to control anger. We have to control the tongue. We have to control the belly. We have to control these things to some extent in the beginning to bring ourselves back to the normal condition. But after that, we have to start engaging in activities that are giving us the higher tastes that are giving us the spiritual expression of senses. It's explained when the gopis are dancing with Krishna, they are fully enjoying their senses, their spiritual senses, by focusing on Krishna's enjoyment. When we can really focus our minds, and then that's what comes up later, one-pointed focus. Prabhupada mentions at the end, a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shrotava kriyatitavascha deyaya pujascha nityada. Therefore, with one-pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So, this is the process. As soon as we get one-pointed focus on these different activities, hearing about Krishna, remembering Krishna, worshipping Krishna, glorifying Krishna, as soon as we engage in these activities, then naturally our senses become satisfied. And then we go on wanting more and more. Ganga Mata, she's distributing books now, and she was saying last night in her offering that she started, last year, just bringing a few books, and to distribute 50 was like a big thing. She was like really excited. Wow, I distributed 50 books. And she thought, I'll never, 108, I'll never get there. And then a year later, 108. Why? Because some taste is growing. So, just like for sense gratification, just like Hiranyakashipu was wanting more and more sense gratification, more and more and more. Similarly in bhakti, as we engage more in the activities of bhakti, even though in the beginning it might seem, I'm only doing this much, it's only like this, anatha nivritti, everything, chanting is very dry sometimes you're falling asleep. What Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj calls it, what is it? Something dipping, dive bombing, dive bombing. When the planes drop a bomb, then it's like, So sometimes our japa is like this, and it's a little bit difficult, and there's no taste. But if we really get into it with one-pointed focus, this is the important thing, with a real direct focus on it, then eventually, slowly the taste starts increasing, and we want more and more and more and more, until we get endless service in Goloka Vrindavan. Because what is Goloka Vrindavan? What is Vrindavan? Vrindavan mood is that I'm always serving Krishna. I'm always wanting more service. I'm never saying, no, Prabhu, I have to do this. No, Mataji, I can't do that now. Goloka Vrindavan is where everyone is just constantly engaged in devotional service. We can't imitate this stage now. Yes, we have our shortcomings, but this is the end goal. This is what we're moving towards. Increasing. So we're throwing ghee on the fire, but not on the fire of sense gratification. We're throwing ghee on the fire of devotional service, on bhakti. We're watering the bhakti lata beach. And in this way, slowly but steadily, we will gain this taste for bhakti, and we will start enjoying our senses, our spiritual senses, completely and fully. This is the path of bhakti. This is what we've been given. There's one other point I wanted to make. Maybe I'll think of. Yeah, we can open up now to any questions, comments. If anyone has anything. Gangamati Goswamini. Yeah. In bhakti. Yes. Okay, finished. Is that? Oh, okay. So just so that everyone can hear it online, Gangamata made the point that if only we could learn so much from Hiranyakashipu actually. If only we could have this taste that he had, to attain good hearing and chanting, to get prema bhakti. If only we had that taste, to hear more and more and more. Because it's really exemplary actually. If you think about it, standing on your tippy toes But never mind, he's not eating, by the way. He's not good. So nobody's delivering prasadam to him while he's doing his austerity. He's just standing there doing nothing. Why? For sense gratification. His mind is festering on this. Imagine if we could, just for a day, we can fast and just chant the whole day. Wow. That's like far out for us. That's really far out. But Hiranyakashipu, he was sitting, doing nothing. Just in this yogi pose that's really painful for so long. It's a really, really good point. And then on the one, you actually reminded me of what I wanted to say. The summum bonum of this, the person who we can look to, who actually did this, who takes Hiranyakashipu's mentality and puts it into devotional service, is Srimati Radharani. It's explained, this is where the relevance comes in. It's explained, I can't give you the exact reference at the moment. I heard it in a lecture by Indradumna Maharaj. He gives these Vrindavan lectures. But he quotes from somewhere, he's a very authoritative person. He quotes that Srimati Radharani, when she's cooking for Krishna, then she's like a Brahman in a yajnik sacrifice. She has one pointed focus. Nothing else is disturbing her. She's not looking over her shoulder at, who's talking there about me behind or what's happening. She's focused completely on serving Krishna, on giving Krishna enjoyment. So she's like a yajnik brahmana. And this is Srimati Radharani's mood. And not only is she intensely focused on her service, but she's also getting other people intensely focused on their service. She's engaging everybody in devotional service. In Nectar of Devotion, it's explained, Prabhupada says that actually, devotional service, it's all under the guidance of Srimati Radharani. At every stage, our devotional service is under the guidance of Srimati Radharani. And this is why it's very important, when we're chanting, we hear Hare, we hear the name of Radharani. Because actually by her mercy we're able to engage in devotional service. And by her representative, Srila Prabhupada, we're able to engage in devotional service. So these are two things. Hearing the mantra properly, putting a focus on our spiritual masters, on the lotus feet of our spiritual masters. And in this way we get some taste. Yeah. Thank you so much. Oh, one more. Oh, two more. Oh, so nice. Jai Ho.
Hare Krishna. Just the point that you were making about speculation and your example, speculation about cloning. So I was just thinking that I was reading actually this morning Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there Prabhupada is making the point: what's the need of speculation? All you have to do is just follow the Guru Parampara, and it'll be perfect. Whatever you say will be perfect. So there's no need to speculate.
Yeah, that's such a wonderful point. Thank you so much.
Very well.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, it's so simple. Where was this? I was reading somewhere as well, maybe in Transcendental Diaries. Somebody was mentioning how Prabhupada, his only credit that he took. Oh no, sorry, it was Kadambakananda Swami. He was giving a lecture yesterday on Srila Prabhupada. On his disappearance day, and he was saying that Prabhupada, sometimes commentators, sometimes people who knew something about the acharyas, they would say, Prabhupada, what has he done? He just took the words of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and he just kind of copy pasted it, with his own little flair. So they were saying like this, like a criticism, what has he done? But actually we can see the result of that, what Prabhupada has done by taking the message of the Guru Parampara and just putting it out there for the world.
Exactly. Yeah. You just need to repeat what the acharyas are saying.
Yes.
Nothing else.
Yes.
And from our own realization as well.
Yes. So. Yeah, that's the culture of Vidya. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that point up, Mother Rangadevi. Wonderful. Wow.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your class. Just two comments, if I may. The first is Srila Prabhupada left our material vision in 1977 at the age of 81.
Oh.
So he traveled the globe 14 times over 11 years.
Okay.
Then the second comment is, I think, again, just going to the aspect of vidya and avidya. The whole point with material life or following a karmic way of life is we are completely dependent on our own endeavor. And going deeper into that aspect, coming to vidya, yes, we understand that we have to be engaged in devotional service, etc. But to go even deeper, the whole point is to purify our consciousness to the degree where we realize that even in devotional service, nothing is dependent on our own endeavor. It's all about mercy and getting that mercy and just depending, surrendering to Krishna and knowing that He will take care of us. So yes, we carry, although we are practicing bhakti and we're following the regulative principles and all of those things, I think a deeper aspect is that we don't realize we still, those remnants of that material consciousness still resides in us in the fact that we're always attempting to achieve devotional goals through our own endeavor.
Yes. Oh,
so we need to also understand, well, be mindful of that in our own activities, spiritual activities, and just watch for that in ourselves as well.
yeah, that's a really amazing point, especially that you made at the end there about, having, our, this kind of false ego about getting devotional goals, about getting things in devotional service done. Oh, I think I spoke about this last time as well, like the upward ladder. Devotional service isn't like a corporate ladder. If you have this mentality, oh, I'm going to become temple president now, oh, I'm going to become GVC, oh, I'm going to do this and this. That's not devotional service. That's actually, it's a sense of false ego. Even my own example, or just a general example actually, sometimes, now it's Kartik, and people take up vrats, So sometimes one will take up even a vrat that is, too much, but because of this false ego, you feel, oh, I'm a good devotee, I can do this, I can chant this many rounds. Maybe in the beginning you have some energy, but very quickly Krishna will shut you down. Very quickly you'll start falling off the wagon, and you can realize that, this happens when we take up something, some austerity, or we take up some, goal seeking, something like that, out of the feeling that we can, by our own endeavor, gain devotional service. But actually, it's only by mercy. His Grace Sachikumar Prabhu, I was so fortunate to get some of his association. When I went to Joburg recently, I stayed with him at the Madran temple. And he was telling me, I was asking him, when serving Guru, when, taking up services like, serving Guru or whatever it may be, how do we not become puffed up? How do we not, get this feeling of, entitlement? And he said, where's the question of becoming puffed up? You did nothing. You're made through and through. This is what stuck in my mind. Through and through, we're made by mercy. Every inch of whatever is good within us is by mercy. Yeah, so thank you. That was a wonderful point. Anything else? Shri Isopanisad ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.